This is a story about Pertree the bear. Pertree the bear and the storybook, to be precise. Pertree lives in fluffy gardens, a wonderful place to live. Our story begins like so many others, with once upon a time. Once upon a time, there was a very large bear. And this very large bear loved stories. He loved to hear stories, to read stories, and most of all, to tell stories. This very large bear, as you might already have guessed, was Pertree. And on this particular morning, Pertree the bear was reading a storybook about a little rabbit and a unicorn. He read the last few words. "And that," he said, "is the end of the story." One of the best things about a story is that you can share it with others. And Pertree the bear wanted to share this very special story with everyone. Pertree strolled out of the forest, on over the hills, and before long, he met Paolo the cat. "Hello," said Pertree in his loud and booming voice. "Oh, hello, Pertree," said Paolo. Pertree thought that Paolo would love to hear the story. He opened the book and began. "Once upon a time," he read. But that is where Paolo stopped him. "I'm sorry, Pertree, I'm terribly busy," he said. "I've got this ball of wool to play with." "But it's such a special story," said Pertree. He so wanted to share the story with Paolo. "Well," said Paolo, "if you lend it to me, I'll just read it when I'm finished playing." But Pertree wanted to read it to him. It was no fun if he couldn't see Paolo's little face as he got to all the good parts. "It's okay," said Pertree. And he continued on his way. That day, Pertree asked Tootie the elephant if he'd like to hear the story. But Tootie was in the middle of a race and Pertree couldn't keep up. He asked Sparkles the monkey if she'd like to hear the story. But Sparkles just went on and Pertree couldn't even get started. He asked Cornelius the crab if he'd like to hear the story. "I like stories," said Cornelius, "but I just love to pinch things." Pertree couldn't find anyone who would listen to his story. "Maybe it's not such a special story after all," he said to himself sadly while sitting in town. "What's it about?" asked the little penguin bin man. Pertree smiled happily and told the bin man that it was all about a little rabbit and a unicorn, and he quickly opened the first page. "Once upon a time," he began. "Oh, you're right," said the bin man. "That's not special. There's no such thing as a unicorn for one thing, and every rabbit I know is little." Pertree didn't know what to say. He sat there miserable. Nobody wanted to hear about the little rabbit and the unicorn. Perhaps nobody ever wanted to hear Pertree's stories. "I'll never tell a story again," he said. He threw the book into the bin and shuffled off. But just as the bin man went to empty the bin, Pertree heard something. "Once upon a time," said a quiet voice. It was Babs the baby bird reading Pertree's story. She had fallen into the bin and was waiting for someone to notice her. Pertree reached in and took her gently out. "Hello!" Babs chirped and cheeped happily, and then she asked Pertree, "Would you read me the story?" Pertree beamed a big smile. He took the book from the bin, sat down beside Babs, and began to read. Once upon a time... And he told the story of the little rabbit and the unicorn. Babs loved it. She was a bit afraid at a scary part, but then there was a funny bit that made her laugh. Pertree loved sharing his story. Eventually, he reached the end. And that, he said, is the end of the story. And then he looked up to see lots of smiling faces. As he had been reading, everyone who passed stopped and listened. Paolo, Tooty, Sparkles, Cornelius. Even the penguin bin men were listening. That is a very special story, they all said. Pertree realized that stories are always special, even more so when they are shared. That evening, Pertree went home and had a lovely sleep, dreaming about a little rabbit and a unicorn. And that, as Pertree would say, is the end of the story.